Brilliant. 3 weeks ago, Thursday evening, I boarded a plane for Toronto, where I spent a relaxing night in the Toronto airport, waiting for my next flight Friday morning, which took me to Barbados. And from Barbados, after a few hours in the sunshine, we took a short flight to St. Vincent, where I did a work experience, a working holiday. It was a remarkable experience. I'd been there 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, we started construction of a church and community center. And we went back this year to do some additional work on the building. It was windy. I had to cinch my hat on. And I discovered there were a number of things I forgot in the 2 years that I'd been away from St. Vincent. Firstly, I forgot how cold the showers are. When the average temperature is 90 degrees, people don't think too much about heating the water. But when you've been out on the work site all day, and you come back and you need a shower, it is cold. It is real, it is that cold. Second thing I forgot was how heavy a shovelful of dirt was. We had been informed before we went on this trip that we wouldn't have to shovel dirt. When I went 2 years ago, we were doing the footings for the building. And we shoveled. And we shoveled. And we shoveled. Because the footings were 5 feet below the surface of the soil. And so we shoveled. And we shoveled wheelbarrows full of dirt. And then as we were pouring the footings, we hauled rock put in the concrete with a wheelbarrow. It was awesome. So I forgot how heavy a shovelful of dirt was. And for 2 days, we shoveled. We had to move this hill so we could dig a footing and put up a retaining wall. On the way back to our accommodations the second night, we're driving down the hill, because every road in St. Vincent is on a hill. We're driving down, and we went by this spot where someone, we believe, had been preparing to build a house. And so they had tried to level their part of the hill. And on the one side, there was a bank of earth about this high. And the excavation was done a while ago, and it had kind of crumbled down. And we're driving by, and one of the guys in the van with me says, "I wonder how many Canadians it took to dig out that hillside." The third thing I forgot was the island way. The island way. You have to kind of island way. It's a little bit different. So we're digging. We're digging and we're digging. We're digging this trench. It's about 20 feet long. And they told us we had to dig it 2 feet deep, 2 feet wide, 2 feet deep. And in the middle we dug it 36 inches by 36 inches and 4 feet deep. So we dig and we dig and we dig and we dig and we haul dirt, we haul dirt, we haul dirt, we dig. And then they told us, after we'd done all the digging, to put a 6-inch concrete footing in the bottom of our 2-foot trench. We dug this deep to put this much concrete. Why? Because it's the island way. That's the way they do it. We were trying to figure out if it was because they wanted to keep the Canadians out of their hair while they were working over here, so they just have us dig a little deeper, a little longer, just keep us busy. Needless to say, we weren't truly excited about the island way. The other thing about the island way that got me a little bit, I had to really cinch down the emotions a couple of times. When we were there 2 years ago, we were doing the footings, and in St. Vincent, everything is built post and beam. Similar to this, we hide it better, but inside that column is a concrete post, right? And it's supported by a beam underneath, and that post will run all the way down to bedrock somewhere. Well, in St. Vincent, everything's built on a hillside, and they do the same thing. They put columns, and they put concrete floors, and column and a concrete floor, whatever. And so the first year we were there, we were doing the first 4 columns for this building. The first column we did, the very first one, the carpenter spent hours getting this nice square box ready to build a nice square column. And then they tied it together, right? And they stood it up. Rebar was in the middle. And we started putting concrete in it. And we're pouring concrete by bucket. Here, we've tried to fill a 2-foot square column by bucket with concrete. It's a lot of work. And as we got to about 80% full, what do you think happened? Norm can see it already. All of a sudden there was a crack.
No.
And the next thing we looked, the concrete's flowing out the bottom. They built this beautiful, beautiful form, but didn't support it adequately. So that as we filled it from the top, the bottom gave way. So we had a huge job of trying to put it all back together. So this is now 3 years later. And they decided that on the front of the building, where there was a cantilever for the second floor, they wanted to put 3 concrete pillars that are somewhat decorative, but they're going to support the cantilever. And they were 1 foot square, preformed pillars. You put them together, you fill them with concrete. Guess what? I'm looking at this. They put 1 tie 2 feet from the bottom. They put 1 tie 2 feet from the top, and they started pouring concrete in. Guess what happens? But it's the island way, brother. Finally, the 4th thing I forgot was how beautifully they sing. The church we were working with doesn't have instruments, they just use their voices. And to hear them sing was absolutely inspiring. It was worth the trip. So remember, when you go on a trip next time, sometimes it's good to forget some of the things you experienced.